Because people these days are so caught up in, oh, I'm going to go make out with 20 girls in one night because it's fun. Like, sure, it may be fun for the night, like, but then you got to wake up and all of a sudden you're alone again. When talking about relationships, a lot of people may instantly jump to girlfriend, boyfriend, but relationships it's an idea. You have relationships everywhere, wherever you go. The main relationship you have is with yourself. And if the relationship with yourself is not peak, then how can you expect the relationships outside to be any better? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lesson 3 of Society Reformed, where we're going to be going over every aspect you can think of regarding this topic. Hope you enjoy, and without further ado, Roger, I have a question for you.
Let me hear it.
When it comes to the word relationships, what is one thing that you 100% can confidently say should be at the top of that list?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the relationship you have with Jesus or God, right? But that relationship at the end of the day is supposed to make the relationship with yourself and your community stronger. Mm-hmm. So when you ask me that question, the first thing I think of is God, especially growing up in a family that raises me Catholic. That's very important. That's very vital in my life. That relationship that you have with a higher being is transcending in many ways. Yeah.
I love that. There are many aspects in our lives where we experience deep connections in relationships. Ones that we can't see. Ones that we have yet to be formed. Ones that we want to form. For me personally, my main point that I try and go back to every time I am embarking on a new journey with a new relationship is it's the why. Why am I starting this relationship? Because when you can identify the why, everything else becomes so much more clear. Let's go back to what Roger said about relationship with God. You can take this many ways, but for me, it is the one relationship that I can 100% wholeheartedly say will never leave me. Because everyone else in your life, they have a possibility of walking out the door and never coming back. For us, with God, that's just not an answer. That's just not a possibility, not even a question. When you have a relationship with an outside being who exists outside of the realm we're used to, it's almost securing knowing that relationship is permanent. And the more deep you go with that relationship, the more you get to experience out of your other relationships in your life. That's the beauty of it. It's almost like a garden. Think of God as like the dirt, the soil, the housing for every other thing in your life. When you nurture that relationship, everything else begins to grow.
Absolutely. I want to continue what you're saying about God being the soil and all your other relationships. God and religion in just general is the foundation. It makes sense as to why the relationship that you have with God, it's very important, right? Because religion makes it apparent as to what is wrong and what is right in a relationship, right? When you have a strong relationship with Jesus or with God, well, Jesus is 100% man and 100% God. So if you have a relationship with Jesus, then all your other relationships should be well off, right? He gives you the correct morals and rules to follow and how to treat a woman and the correct gender roles.
Yeah, no. And what's the beauty of that is that in the Bible, it lists out the definition of perfect love. In that scripture, that text, right, it gives you every component, right? It says love is patient, love is kind, Love does not envy. Love's not jealous. It lists all those things. And that's a love that we should model our relationships with, especially if it's something that we're pursuing romantically, right? Because if you model it after perfect love, then there's no way that you can go astray from that, right? Relationships only begin to wither when we introduce our perspective on it, when we start giving our ways to it, when you start incorporating things that aren't necessarily supposed to be involved in relationships, such as outside lust, maybe a little bit of perversion, manipulation per se, things that do not align with the will of God, because God, he already gives us the directions on how to have perfect love, because that's his love. The love written in there is modeled after his love. Therefore, we should model our love after that to replicate the same relationship he gives with us. Me personally, I feel that whenever I enter my next stage into a season of new relationships, from what I've done, with whether it be self-reflection, I guess just self-identity, and just studying on how to properly approach a new relationship, this next person that I'm going to be connected with it's going to be something special. Something that's almost, you can say, and this isn't to be cliche, but literally out of this world, right? Because that's where it comes from, out of this world. Because it's something you can't find on earth. There is no possible way that I am able to transmit perfect love from an imperfect being, which is myself. However, if I take a perfect being's love from God and I use myself as a vehicle to therefore use that and push that upon, or not push that upon, but give upon that same care and love that he gives to me, then it's almost like I'm just the mediator. And really, who I'm in a relationship with, they're actually in a relationship with God.
The divine words that God lays upon you are the perfect guidelines for a very good relationship. People who have been in a relationship for 60 years, and sometimes you see them at your local Denny's or IHOP or any breakfast place of the like, you see them sit in silence because they are so comfortable in their own silence. They feel at peace with one another. But they have followed the guidelines of God. Not all of them, but I would say most healthy relationships, that's what I'm trying to get at. Most healthy relationships that last for decades, right? Some of us have not even lived for 2 decades. These marriages have lasted for 6 decades, 5 decades, whatever. Because they've followed the correct guidelines, the correct way, I guess you can say, of how a relationship should function. Right? In today's modern society, we've lost that. Modern relationships are horrible for the human soul. They are degrading. They are, it's very sickening sometimes to see how the dynamics between men and women work nowadays. Women kind of hold this. Women, the whole image of the body has been distorted and over-sexualized to the point where the dating game between men and, just like the dating game in general, it's so out of whack, it's out of order. And that has to do with social media and the way that social media works. Let's talk about this.
All right, yeah, but before we get, I would say, onto that topic, I just want to ask you a really quick question.
Okay.
As someone who is growing up within our youth, our society, right, especially within the youth, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you feel that relationship is mentioned within the earlier stages rather than later?
I would say that's kind of a tricky question, I would say that you should be clear within your actions. You should be clear with the intentions that you have. When you go on a date with someone or if you meet somebody, let's say, like, for me, example, I would be completely clear with my intentions early on. So the girl isn't blinded by my intentions later on. On a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, I guess it would be like more of a when, kind of a when, not necessarily a scale of 1 to 10, but when. Like, when would you say is the appropriate time to introduce the idea?
The idea of having a relationship with her.
Yeah.
Well, I would say on the first date.
On the first date?
My actions should be clear as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I'm being polite, let's say if we go out to dinner, if I pay for the dinner, I treat her with respect. Like, men should be more clear with their intentions.
Yeah.
First of all.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if it's a matter of when, it should be the first date, without a doubt. I mean, like, even if you're going on a date, the date should signify that it's more than just friends going out for like a picnic or something like that.
Yeah.
The date in itself should symbolize that you're interested in her.
Mm-hmm. And just to add on to that,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the idea of relationship, this is just how I personally approach it, is that I kind of take a few, maybe depends on how long it is, right? But I'll take some time to just not necessarily analyze the person, but just see if there's someone who I'd want to go into a relationship with, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of meeting her for the first time, asking her all these questions, feeling her energy out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
But I guess the next question is raised is, when should you start the topic of incorporating, I guess, religion into your relationship? Because like we said before, relationships that don't follow that code are more likely to, I guess, become withered and tainted.
Well, I feel like if y'all are having a conversation, right, and she's just talking about the most haram things you can think of, right, and she's just bringing up all these parties she's been to and all the people that she knows and all these things, right, I think you can clearly tell just by, not just by seeing a girl, but by talking to her and getting to know her, what her values are. Mm-hmm. And if her values are straight, and if she knows what she wants in life, and if she knows how to conduct herself within social interactions and social places, if she knows how to be a good person, well, then I'm sure she has some moral guideline, which you can extend into thinking that, she's probably religious. Mm. But I would just say you should just ask her these things in the first date. Just get deep into it.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I'm sorry, but
you're good.
But that's where I would go with it. I would ask her what her morals are, what she values in her life, what her relationships are, and then in turn, I would ask her if she goes to church. But then at the end of the day, for me, as long as she's a good person, truly a good person, someone who has a soul and a heart, and isn't brainwashed by modern society, she doesn't even have to be religious in that sense. Then I would probably like her, man. I'd probably like her.
Yeah, that's a good point. For me, I tend to approach it as more of a, would my mom approve of this person, right? Because I feel like she has good enough judgment. A lot of I guess some of the more recent ones that I've brought up to her, she's kind of declined, so had to leave those in the past. But when it comes to I guess current ones, we're on the right track.
Yeah.
I tend to value girls who have, I get not necessarily like set goals, but who know themselves well, right? Who know what they like. The most important thing that I value when it comes to relationships is obviously, where does their love lie, right? This isn't necessarily like, is she gonna cheat on me? It's, where is she allocating her focus towards, right? Because if I can see that, then that'll give me a clear path of where she's headed. And we can take this deeper, like, where is her love for God? Because, again, personally, I don't think I would be with the girl who doesn't have a relationship with God. And there's many reasons for that. But the main one is that even if you have nothing in common with the girl at all, if you two both share that same relationship, then that's already something you can bond over. And from that, maybe a fruit will be born, right? But again, that's just me personally. That's my personal take on it. Yeah. However, I do feel like when you have two relationships, I guess, one romantically and then one religiously, you can get so much more deeper with that connection. And it just encompasses you on such another level that it's literally indescribable, the feeling that comes out of it. And so that's why I value, I guess, straight morality and good virtues, a virtuous relationship since I know the things that can come out of them, and I know that if I were to build a relationship that was not founded on that rock, it can lead to just more pain and heartbreak.
Yeah, I mean, to continue on your point, it's a tricky thing to try and understand in women, if they're religious or not.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, it's a deal breaker if they're not, and for others, it doesn't matter as much. Yeah. But there's this sense of moral guideline to a relationship if y'all are both religious. Yeah. And y'all have that in common, of course, and that's like, it's very powerful. It's very strong.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is just my personal preference. However, I would say a good general guideline for all relationships, regardless, is whether the two people connect themselves, right? Yeah. If you can have a good relationship, I feel like some people just kind of have a sense of if they click with the person or not right off the bat. Maybe even if you're just within their presence, you can kind of just get a vibe for them, and then from that you can somewhat be able to tell on whether this person is someone who you like to pursue a relationship with or someone who you kind of keep away from. But again, that's just my personal take on it.
Well, yeah, but like these are things you learn over a course of like this is something you learn over the course of a few relationships. Yeah. I mean, this is a disclaimer. We haven't been in a relationship in about a long time. Long time. We haven't been in a relationship in a long time, but we're just saying what we know, you know? All right. I honestly just want to talk about the dynamics of podcasting. This doesn't have to go anywhere. I just want to get it off my chest. All right. It's very, very difficult. I don't think people understand what it's like to talk in front of a mic, in front of an audience, and trying to explain your thoughts as articulate as possible. And not just that, but you have to be entertaining in a sense. Every word you say has to have some meaning to it. But then again, that adds pressure, and it kind of takes away from the organicness of the conversation, right? So what we're going to do now is act like we're at a restaurant.
Let's begin.
All right, so since we were talking about relationships and about the dynamics of relationships in accordance to God, let's talk about relationships in today's age, which does not involve God, that's for sure. I mean, that's 100% sure. Relationships nowadays, the only thing that matters is if she's hot, and if he's hot, boom, dating. That's all that matters, right? And you know, I might be a little pessimistic about today's dating world, but it's true. You know, everybody has some sense that it's a little messed up, right? That it's a little too superficial. It's a little too unorthodox, untraditional. It's a little weird. It's a little messed up. You know, we're going to talk about the dynamics of that and why that even is. Because it's sickening. It's sickening.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people today kind of get into a relationship for the status. Ooh. Right? You gain someone you can now post about, right? You can...
yes.
Yeah. You have this, I guess, person in your life now who you can... And some people do this. They start revolving their identity around their relationship. I know many people who love posting about their significant other.
Dude, that's all I see on Instagram.
Yeah. I don't even use Instagram that much anymore, but you know. But
nice, man, nice.
No, but bro, like on a serious note, a lot of people aren't in the relationship for the other person. They're in it for themselves. Okay. Right? Because it somewhat boosts their self-confidence knowing that they have another source of love. And some people kind of get into a relationship because they can't love themselves. Ooh. So they have to find that from another source, another person who can provide that for them. And from that person dishes out, but they're not receiving. So the person who is in the relationship is receiving all this love, and yet sometimes they're not reciprocating it back to their partner, which then this is how toxic relationships are formed, right? You see differences, you see imbalance, you see all these things that and it stems from all these different problems that people don't really mention. But again, in order to rid a problem, you have to find the root of it, because if you can do that, then it makes everything else so much easier to identify. So in today's world, a lot of the problems with the relationships stems from, again, it stems from the why. It stems from a lot of people go into relationships and they don't have vision on where they want to take it, right? They kind of just take it day by day. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you really want to have a good relationship, start with the end in mind. All right, where do you see it in a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 5 years, right? Some people date for the experience. Some people date to marry. Regardless of what path you're taking, just know that when you start with the end in mind, it's going to make everything else so much clearer.
Yeah. But then I would say, like, to combat that, I would say that kind of takes away from the
authenticity of it.
Not just that, but from the excitement of a relationship, because some relationships are so exciting for 6 months, maybe even a year, and then they keep getting more exciting just spontaneously, because then it's like, oh, should we get married? Should we do this? Should we get a dog? Should we have kids? But I completely understand what you mean, because if you start with the end in mind, then that saves a lot of trauma and pain and suffering from happening. And I would say, if y'all are having any problems with your relationship, with your significant other, I would say to dish the phone, self-reflect, and then have a really deep conversation with your significant other about the problems that y'all are having. I mean, communication is very important. I mean, we have our phones, right? We can communicate within a second. You send a text, boom, other person has it in a second, right? But then we still struggle to communicate what we really mean, which is kind of interesting, But I would say, if y'all are having problems, think it out. But think about your problems first, right? What are you not giving to the other person? I mean, and what is the other person not giving you that you need, right? Like, all of us have different love languages, right? I would say try and figure out your love language if you don't know what it is. And then I would say just communicate, because communication is very important. I would say it's probably the foundation. It's one of the roots. If there was like seven aspects to a healthy relationship, I would say communication is like up there.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, communication is something it's almost the make or break in relationships, right? Actually, no, it is the make or break. Because if you have a relationship and then communication is lacking, you're in it for I guess, you're going to crash. And not only in the sense that communication is what nurtures a healthy relationship, it's also just a base level, standard for relationships, right? Because if you two aren't communicating your problems, maybe some things that you guys want to discuss, if none of that is being transparent, if you guys aren't being transparent with each other, how can you add anything to improve your relationship, to take it to the next level, all right? If you're just if you have something that you are dealing with personally in your relationship, and you're just keeping it to yourself because you're kind of scared to address it with your partner, then the issue is only going to grow further. Yeah. If the other person doesn't know how you're feeling, then how can you guys together collectively fix that issue? Because again, nobody's a mind reader, but it makes it so much easier when you just spill your thoughts out. Even if you have to be blunt with it, right? Just say, hey, this bothers me, or hey, we need to talk about this. I guarantee you 99% of your problems will be solved if you just have a good conversation with that person and really address what needs to be done.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because if you're like, I don't want you texting that guy anymore, and then she says no, right? And that low-key breaks your heart, but then you're a man, so you kind of have to take it, right? But then that alone in 6 months can make you like suffer so much more if you just break the relationship then, if you're not comfortable with that then. The dynamics are so weird because of social media, right? Never before have we seen relationships the way that they are now. They're fueled by status. They're fueled by other people's opinions about y'all's relationship. They're fueled by everything else but y'all's love for each other.
And just to add to that, I feel like cheating has never been easier.
Dude, let's talk about cheating, man. Let's talk about cheating.
You can have an entirety of a relationship, and your partner could be cheating the entire time, and you would never know about it if they know how to hide it. Cheating with today's technology is literally easier than making a sandwich at Subway.
Yeah, it is really easy.
Like,
it's incredibly easy. Like, you can send a text, boom.
Not only that can you send a text, you can literally go on dates and things like that. You know,
true.
You can build an emotional connection with another person other than your spouse or your partner, and they don't even know about it due to the fact that it's so accessible. All these people now just become available, and I feel like, well, again, I haven't experienced this issue, but I feel like when people get into relationships, everyone starts hitting them up now, right? That's something I've seen, but again, all these people just become at your doorstep, and they're all wanting to be in a relationship with you because they understand that you're now like taken. And so when something can't be accessed anymore naturally, the desire for it kind of rises up, right? Almost like supply and demand in a sense. But this, again, just like, and that raises more problems, right? Like insecurities, overthinking. All of those stem from, again, technology and social media in today's world. But just cheating as a concept is just incomprehensible to me. Just due to the fact that this person, maybe your partner cheats on you, right? Maybe you cheat on your partner. Don't do that, by the way. But again, I don't understand why someone would cheat if they know that they have a source of love. Again, I guess it goes different from case to case, right? But if you're going to cheat, then break up with your partner before you go and get an intimate relationship with someone else, right? Just be a good person. But to cheat, knowing that your partner loves you, is just, I don't understand why someone would even fathom that thought. It's literally, again, maybe it's because I struggle again, but coming from a logical perspective, it's just, I don't know, I don't get it.
Well, I would say that cheating kind of stems from, trust. And the availability of being able to see every single female in your state. I mean, never before in history have men or women have had so many options. It's ridiculous. And then we can see the most beautiful woman in the world at our fingertips anytime, anywhere, anytime you want. So that kind of raised our standards for beauty. I would say across the board, doesn't matter the gender. I would say our standards for beauty have gone through the roof. Our standards, I would say, are probably too high. I would say the radical feminists have created a dating world that is only beneficial for like the top 5% of men. Top 5% of men. Cheating is difficult to do, right? I feel like there's no shame anymore in our dating world. That's for sure, especially at like social events, right? There's no shame anymore, right? In fact, cheating and sleeping with as many people as you can is glorified and honored.
Hookup culture.
It's like a virtue now. It's like, how many bodies do you have? If you have more than 5, then you're considered cool, If you have 10 plus, men, this doesn't matter to men or women. This applies to all genders. This applies to everybody, okay? The fact that body count is glorified, especially within the world of social media. What does that say about our society? What does that say about your actions? What does that say about the people you're hanging out with? If you're hanging around people who glorify body count, then those people are horrible human beings. I mean, just think about it, because you're glorifying an act in which it's almost sacred.
It is.
I would say it's sacred, and it connects your souls. It's a soul connecting activity, and now it's overdone, completely overdone. Everybody is brainwashed to the point where the good has become bad and the bad has become good. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
And just going back to, it's just like, it's not even normalized. It's literally, it's like popularized, like you said.
No, but it is also normalized.
It is too. It is. but it's a sense of like both. Like, not only is it just like kind of people's average, people pursue that goal. It's like all these parties, right? People are just making out with each other. They're hooking up left and right. Every corner you turn, there's always someone with a new girl or something like that.
But not to say that this is a new thing. I'm just saying, like what he said, it's normalized and popularized, right? And the 20 years ago, people were partying like there was no tomorrow and doing all the same things that they're doing now. But now social media has been thrown into the mix, and now it's been popularized, right? So continue, please.
Again, just a food for thought, right? Remember, at one point in your life, you're going to have to settle down. And when you do, I want you to just reflect on your past actions. Are those interactions that you had with those individuals, was it worth it? Because now you have to find someone who you want to actually give your love to. And then you look back, and then you've had all these experiences across the board with all these different girls, all these different guys. So what makes your new love more special, more valuable than the other ones?
Or any different.
Or any different than the ones you've already had. It's like, it's almost inflation in a sense, right?
Look,
like,
you have to think about it like this, right? You should come to these realizations before you make the mistake of sleeping with 20 plus people. All right? Because once you find the man that's truly going to take care of you and provide for you and love you with all of his soul, but then you tell him you've had 25 bodies before the age of 22 years old, you're going to lose him. And now you're going to be 50 years old without a man, having a cat, right? Living alone, right? So I would say you have to come to these realizations before it's too late.
It goes both for men and women, right?
Yes.
Because it's not just one specific gender that's the problem. If you partake in it, I would say you're part of the problem, regardless of your background, right? Again, I just, maybe it's because, I come from a different background, more faith-based background. But seriously, when you look at it, right, you cannot say that you love this person and you're going to give them your all when you've already had like the closest form of intimacy possible with like 15 different people in the past. So what makes it more special for your wife or for your husband to have that same connection with you if you've already shared that experience with all these different people?
Yeah.
Especially at a young age, right? It just shows that, like if you're doing that at a young age, can you imagine 10 years in the future when you have access to more men, more women, when it becomes more accessible? You have to address the problem now, completely cut it out, and turn from your way. Literally, that's what it says. Like, turn from your ways, your wicked ways. Because I guarantee you, this is literally why divorce rates in America are like 50% right now. Because the same people who are doing these actions that we're talking about right now when they were kids are now in these relationships and they don't know how to manage themselves. They don't know how to properly cultivate a good, healthy relationship because they never took the time to just sit down one-on-one with the real girl and find real love, not this hookup love, this social love, real love that stems from the heart, and build a foundation off of that. Because people these days are so caught up in, I'm going to go make out with 20 girls in one night because it's fun. Like, sure, it may be fun for the night, but then you got to wake up and all of a sudden you're alone again. like, was it worth it? Like, okay, now you have all this, and half the time you can't even remember because you're probably blackout drunk, right? So think about it from a different perspective. Like, what would your mom think if she saw you making out with these guys, making out with these girls, in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m. in some random house's backyard, right? Like, when you think about it that way, I feel like a different perspective is formed, and that's the perspective that you guys need to go into if you really want to have a good relationship later in your life. Because from what I've seen, right, and I'm not really like a party person, right? Like, I like to have fun, but parties just aren't my thing. But those people are just, they're all lost in a sense, right?
And I mean, in a sense, there's some good aspects.
In a sense,
of parties.
no, like there's good, like you can have fun, without partaking in those things. But again, it's the motive. Like, why do people do these things? Like, I want to ask you, like, what's your answer to that? Like,
oh, okay. Well, I would say that it's not entirely our fault. We grew up in a weird and just a really weird time. Yeah. But like you said, most marriages end in divorce. well, not most, I would say half of them end in
Half.
divorce, right? So a lot of the kids that we're growing up with come from broken homes, broken families. They don't know what a real and healthy relationship looks like. So I would say that we just got dealt a really bad hand.
Yeah.
Because relationships are they're super important for our health.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, just think about it. Like, our relationships are the foundation for a good life, I would say. 100%.
Yeah. And a lot of it, again, it stems from the household, right? I've been super blessed to have 2 loving parents. Love you, mom. Love you, dad. But for the people who don't have, or who don't have that same experience, they're not going to know. And especially if their parents' relationship was toxic and that's the reason for their divorce.
Yeah.
They're going to kind of see that, and then maybe that sprouts a fear of getting to a relationship, which is why they don't want to commit.
Yeah.
You know? So there's many things. It's not all factors just put under one definition, right? There's many reasons, but again, I would say if you're someone who's our age, right? 17, 18, 16, maybe older, maybe younger, right? Give or take. Just take more care into the actions that you're doing, right? Your reputation. Because everything you do, whether you like it or not, is going to stay with you for your life. So just think of it as every action you do is somewhat being written into your history, right? If you were to, every word you speak is some kind of like being written on your skin in a sense, right? Because wherever you go, you're going to carry those things with you. But if you never partake in those, then you don't carry that weight. So it's kind of in a sense like think logically. Think for the future. Make your future self proud.
Dude. Well, especially now, our actions have major repercussions depending on what you do in the future.
It's like that thing, like your present actions determine your future self.
Yeah.
That quote. And again, when talking about relationship, maybe even dating, right? Because the whole concept of dating now has just been tainted. Because a lot of people date because they want to, have sex with a girl that they find hot on Instagram, right? A lot of people date because they want to, I guess, add something, make their lives a little fun for a football season or something.
It's very superficial.
Mm-hmm. A lot of it is, it's not fake love, but it's just not real love. It's kind of just, I don't know if I would even categorize it in the same topic as love. More just like, what's it, like, attraction maybe, probably. I don't know the word, but probably lust. I would give it more lust.
Yeah, like I would say a really strong friendship.
Maybe.
That's over-sexualized.
I would say a problem for that, too, is probably just because, again, the easy access people, especially at a young age, right? You see all these things on the internet that you probably shouldn't see. And from there, you gain these notions of these perspectives that you probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And then from those, you build off your path on, if I saw this online, then it's going to be like this in person, which it's not, right? So you have to kind of really, again, dig into the root. And then from there, you can kind of, and even if you've done what we've mentioned in the past, right? If you personally have experienced that, just recognize that, the past is in the past, but your past does not determine your future, right? So if you make a change today, then I guarantee you your future self will thank you for it.
Yeah, and I just want to say something that's very interesting, It's whenever you get into a relationship with somebody and y'all are in love, whatever, right? You still can see all the different options on your phone every single day. And she can too. Like let's say you slip up, you do something wrong, you make a mistake. She can go text somebody. She can go text a guy about the problems y'all are having. And then he tells her all this crap or whatever and brainwashes her. The same thing goes for girls, right?
Like the boy best friend.
Actually, not really. The dynamics between girl best friends and boy best friends is different. Because, to be honest, most of my friends who talk to girls, they're either interested in them or they're with them.
Yeah.
There's not really like a friend aspect to it. Because, I mean, like, it doesn't really make sense. If you have a problem and if you're a guy, then you go talk to your homeboys about it. Right? But if you're a girl and you have problems about a guy, then you go talk to a freaking guy about it. So the gender roles are a little no, not the gender roles, fuck, what's the word? The gender standards. The standards are different in that sense. But like I was saying, like when you're in a relationship with somebody, you're still able to see all the different options in your whole state, in your whole city. Right? So it makes it even more difficult to like truly love that person fully, because you're seeing everybody else who you could be with. Right? And don't lie to yourself and be like, oh, I only love this person or whatever. Right? Because when you see literally every single option in the entirety of your city, it changes the dynamics of love to just one person, you know? So that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Just going back to that, right? Again, to really have a good relationship, it's got to be 1-to-1, right? It's got to be 100% effort from both parties. Because when you stop showing affect, when you stop doing the little things that you did in the beginning, right, to get to that relationship, then the major things kind of start. It's like an earthquake almost, right? You spend all this time building like the foundation of it, right? And then when you start to neglect, it just shatters. And a lot of people don't realize that. But again, back to what you said, is it when you have all these people, all these girls, all these guys at your fingertips, right? It comes to how much do you value your relationship? Because I guarantee you, I've overheard so many conversations, right? And I mean, like, you know, I'm not saying that I'm perfect either, but a lot of people, they'll start talking about other people while in a relationship with their person. And it's kind of like, you know, like, where do your values lie in a relationship? It's almost like, are you really in it for that person's well-being? Are you in it because they were available for you at the time?
Oh, okay. Let's go back to the why, because I just thought of something.
Okay.
Right? When you're about to get into a relationship, it is very important to understand why you're doing it. Correct? So what I mean by this, like what I'm trying to get at, is there's nothing wrong with having relationships with the other sex or with the other sex. But what is wrong is neglecting the other person's boundaries, right? And if you have a clear why as to why you got into that relationship, then the boundaries that the other person sets makes more sense, right? So like, let's say if I'm with a girl and she tells me to stop texting and talking to one of my friends who are girls over the phone. So I'm like, okay, but in person, she's okay if we talk in person or whatever. I would be okay with that, truly. But it's weird because you have to communicate these things very clearly with the other person. And sometimes if the why is distorted or if the why is superficial, then these boundaries that the other person sets up seem controlling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. And, you know, I feel like boundaries should be something that's set up day one, right? Because you don't want to go, you know, a month, 2 months, 3 months, and there's no kind of things on what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, because then your partner can go out and do these things that they don't know that you don't like, but it's eating you alive on the inside. So again, that just leads to more arguments and discussions that make you uncomfortable, you know, things like that. But again, boundaries are super important, especially in the early stages of a relationship. Because if you can show your partner that you respect their boundaries, then that adds another level to that trust that you guys have. Yeah. And so again, it just goes back to being, you know, just having a good moral code when it comes to approaching relationships, taking it slow, right? Don't rush into a relationship, especially if it's new, if you haven't been in a relationship for a while, right? Yeah. Don't rush the process. Good things come slowly, right? But again, see relationships as something that's kind of alternative to what society says they are, right? Because I feel like relationships today are so casual, when a real relationship, and I want to ask you this question, right? Because this kind of just came to my mind right now.
Yeah, what's up?
When do you think should be, even if applicable, right, should be the appropriate time to start dating to marry rather than dating to date?
Ooh, well, I would say in your early 20s.
Early 20s.
So I would say 22 to 25. You should start really thinking about who you should be with for the rest of your life. Which is different from like my grandparents. My grandparents got married at like 17 years old, which is my age, which is kind of unfat, and it's just it's absolutely insane to think about.
But how long did their relationship last?
Well, they're still together.
Exactly. Like so again, there's no, you can't really, I feel like it depends. Again, it's like case to case, but see how like you can't really, it's kind of hard to put a set definition on, you know, what age you should be doing it. But I feel like for the majority of people, a lot of them don't mature enough until they reach those ages, which is why they start approaching it then. But if we go back to the times that our grandparents were dating,
a completely different
none of these
era.
factors that we're mentioning, you know, were even an idea.
Yeah.
Right? Like social media, cheating over text, things like that wasn't even a thought. And so I feel like that's why those relationships are so strong. That it literally became unbreakable, right? And when you compare those relationships to your average modern relationship today between a boy and a girl, right? It's like they were miles ahead of us in almost every aspect. Right now you have people that just completely neglect their girlfriends today, right? Because they see another girl who they say is like hotter than their girlfriend, right? The priorities are different. The values are all tainted, right?
Yeah.
No one genuinely shows care for their actual partner, right? And that's not to say that there aren't people that do, because there definitely are some people who actually have genuine love for people. But I would say 80% of relationships today are doomed to fail due to the lack of foundation that they're based off of.
I would say that about 50, 60 years ago, whenever my grandparents were getting into a relationship, there was shame involved with doing bad things that were not right. Like cheating, for example, or having 5 to 10 bodies. There was real shame involved in this. Real shame.
Yeah.
Now these bad things are almost glorified. I mean, let's just think about OnlyFans, you know?
Yeah, that's
60 years ago, people weren't even wearing bikinis out in the beaches like they are now. Like, you can see their whole freaking body, dude. I mean,
it's like it stems from, you know, self-respect, things like that, right? But again, both parties are the problem, right? And it's not just to put blame on one party, because one party can't be the problem, because you have to have people to buy into that too. So again, it goes both ways, right? Because yes, the person producing the content is kind of, they're 50% of the problem, but you know, the person buying into that content is also the problem too, since they're just adding fuel to the fire. Yeah. So it kind of builds up. It's like a domino effect that's reversing, right? So that's just sprouts more problems, right? Because then you have objectification between relationships, right? No one actually cares for the person anymore. They only see them for their aspects, right? They don't look for the inside anymore. They don't show real care, real value, real love, like we mentioned before. And it's just, that's the whole point of this whole podcast, right? Identifying these key issues that lead to faults in our society. Like, it's unfathomable to have a good society when you have these key things that are literally so straight away from a moralistic code. Like, if God were to come back today, Jesus from the sky just descends down, and he were to just gaze at who we are as a community within, you know, in the whole, everyone as a society, I guarantee you he would not be happy with what he sees. And that isn't just, you know, saying that we're bad now, because we've always been bad as a society. But I feel like now it's just like worse than before, like worse than ever. Because it's just all these people, and they have all these shifted views. And like, again, there's so many aspects you can touch on. But on the topic of relationships, right, it's not founded on anything real. Because a lot of it's, like you said, superficial. It's a lot of status. It's a lot of lust involved, right? It's just so many problems that, again, it's just like, I don't know. But it's kind of hard to describe it when there's so many things to touch on.
Yeah, it's really hard to try and get a really hot girl's attention nowadays. Because like you have to have texting game. You have to be able to have game on all different aspects. You have to be able to talk to her in person, make her interested in you. You have to sell her. You have to sell yourself to her. You have to sell yourself to the woman of your dreams. And that's really hard nowadays. Like 50, 60 years ago, I would say the man just had to go up to the girl and be like, I'm interested, whatever he would say. And then she would say, no, I'm good. And that was it. Now, and let's compare that to today's day and age. It's like you see a girl online, you're like, ooh, damn. You send her a text that she gets so many DMs by guys. Your text has to stand out, right? So you send her a text that you think she's going to get attention, try to raise her up online, whatever. Once you do that, right, that's just the first step, right? You have to be top G to be able to get that girl's attention that you're interested in already. Not even meeting her yet, okay? So there's like 5 different levels. The first level is texting her. The second level is picking her up and meeting her family, whatever. Her family.
It's important.
And that's like a skill you need to learn in itself. The third level is taking her out. Showing her what you're made of, showing her your values, your masculinity. The fourth level is going beyond that. I guess you could say rounding the bases, whatever. The fifth level is marriage. But now there's been an extra level added. And that level is the worst level that's ever been added in anything ever in the history of evers.
What is that level? I'm curious.
Well, having to be able to text her on social media. That's the level that is so detrimental to relationships nowadays. I would just say social media in general. Not just because the phone wasn't an issue 50 years ago when my grandparents were calling each other late night Friday, when they had a curfew, when they were 17, 18 years old. None of y'all have a curfew anymore. Y'all go partying, sleep. Y'all just do whatever. There's no shame involved. There's no moral guidelines involved in today's society. It's messed up. But what I was getting at is that the social media is just completely distorted. It's switched.
Changed the game.
It changed the game.
Dude.
And then men have to change the game to kind of, to play the game better.
Yeah. In order to beat the game, you got to know how it works, right? You got to know how to play it. Anyway, this is like when, in comparison, right? If you were to compare yourself, you're the viewer as a man, right? If you're a man, right? But again, if you were to compare yourself to the average person, how would you say you rank yourself against them, right? Above or below, just give or take, right? Because that alone should give you kind of a baseline on where you stand at, right? And again, this is like super, super generalized, right? But if you're single, right, no girlfriend, somewhat young age, right, 18, 25, something like that. Really, you got to understand that regardless if you like it or not, the way it works is you have to be almost like, I don't know the word. It's like almost like you have to be the one to make the move, right? But not only in the sense that you have to be the one to go up to the girl, you have to be the one to provide too, right?
You have to be exceptionally competent and confident.
In all aspects.
In all aspects.
Right. This is why at a young age, you should be setting yourself up for success in the future. Not partying, not going out and doing all these things. Set your goals straight, because I guarantee you'll put yourself miles ahead of the average person when you do that. Right? Become financially literate. All right. Study like things like psychology and things like that, so you know how to make connections. All these things that people don't really, I guess, take into care, or ideas, whatever it is, right? But really grasp those things that people kind of address later on in their life. If you grasp them at a young age, you're putting yourself in such a better position than the average person that it's literally, you have no chance of losing, right? So that's why, me personally, I've read all the books you can, all the self-help books, right?
Yeah.
I've done all the like practices for speech and all that, and I still have ways to go. But I would say, in comparison to the average person, I would say I'm just, a little bit more ahead, just because of the actions that I've taken. But I still have ways to go. Right? I'm not perfect. No one's perfect.
Yeah.
But you can do things to level yourself up a little bit, gain a little bit more value, self-value, and then that'll put you ahead of the game, right? Because the whole point is that you have to model yourself after the person you want to become, right? If your child were to become you, would you be proud of that kid?
Ooh.
Think about it, right? If my kid came out like me, right, I'd kind of, I'd be a little worried, right? But if, for the most part, I'd be kind of proud because
That's
I know
a really good standard to hold yourself to.
Yeah, it is.
100%.
And again, right? Because if you're doing things that are all improving yourself, right? Going to the gym, you're learning every day, right? You're becoming a well-rounded man, right? Then as long as you stay on that path, then you have nothing to lose, nothing to worry about. Because you're already on the right track, right? Just keep it consistent, right? Don't let distractions get in your way. Don't care about what other people think. Just follow that path in your mind, and you're good.
Yeah, this concept may seem foreign to older generations, but that's what the game is nowadays. You have to be an exceptionally good person. You have to be an exceptionally fit. You have to be knowledgeable. Yeah, you have to have all these things in order to have a good relationship and to find a woman that is deserving of your love. You have to be well-rounded in every single aspect. You can't just be well-rounded in one thing. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's very difficult to try and find a relationship nowadays that is valuable on both sides.
Yeah, but again, even if you do all those things, right, you have to make sure that the person you're giving that love to, I'm not going to say like is worthy of it, but is almost, I don't label it as if they're deserving of it, but do they have like the same, like will they push you further or will they drag you down is essentially what I'm getting at, right? Because you don't want to spend all this time working on yourself, improving yourself, right, and become like Fitzgerald, right, where he was with that girl and all she did was drain her money. Larry Fitzgerald.
With Ella,
what is it? Francis? I don't know. The writer of Great Gatsby, right? You don't want to become Gatsby, where he does all these things, right? And the girl that he loves just Scott Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
F. Scott Fitzgerald.
With
Where's
Ella.
Larry?
Wait, I think it's Ella. I think it's Ella.
No,
that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right.
Whatever. It doesn't matter, right? But you have to. It goes both ways, right? Because you want to again do things for yourself, but make sure that the person you're giving it to, right, they're deserving of it in a sense, right? Because you don't want to have all this work behind you and you just throw it away.
Yeah, she was pretty crazy. She was
Daisy.
No, it wasn't Daisy.
It was Daisy.
No. Wait, F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife. Or Great Gatsby's wife. Oh. Yeah, Daisy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zelda
is F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife,
Zelda.
who was pretty crazy.
Manipulative. Toxic.
As bad as it gets.
Every red flag you can do,
she ended up in an asylum.
Embodied in one person.
She ended up in an asylum, I think, and died at like 40 something.
Yeah.
So she's pretty insane. But that's kind of an extreme case.
Yeah, but Fitzgerald had all that love for her, right? So he was kind of blinded by that. But again, divorce back then was kind of what's the word? It was frowned upon.
Yeah,
so when you were in a relationship with a person, you were locked in for life. Right? Nowadays, it's just boom, send in the papers and you're done, right? So the value of relationships, especially marriages, has gone down greatly because there's not that backing to it anymore. Right? People go in and they're not locked in. like they're not with it for life.
Well, people cannot go through rough patches anymore. People aren't as resilient as they used to be. Right? If y'all go through a rough patch and you break up with your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and then that's it. Right? It's just one rough patch completely changes your relationship forever. Right? But it didn't used to be like that, right? Relationships they're very difficult. Well, it depends on what type of relationship. If it's a love relationship with another partner, it's going to be difficult. There are going to be very difficult times where you think about breaking up, where you think about just changing your identity and moving to Mexico or something. But I mean, you have to think about your why again. Why did you even get into a relationship with this person?
And even when getting into a relationship, people just kind of base their interest off looks only, right? This quote, right, it's pretty true, right? Looks attract, personality keeps, right? Because, you can have the most beautiful woman you've ever seen in your life, right? But if her personality is trash, like, you're not going to want to be with her. So just because a girl you find attractive, on the surface level is interesting to you, that doesn't necessarily mean go after her. because behind those doors, right, she could just have like this awful personality. So you really have to take your time, find someone good, right? Find a Proverbs 31 girl, 32 girl, and then go after them, right? Because if you're going after this girl and she's all messed up in all ways, right, you're just you're setting yourself up for failure. And what are you getting out of it? Heartbreak, pain, and a setback in your life, right? You're just, all that work that you did, all that self-improvement stuff, just gone to waste because you gave it to this person who wasn't deserving of it.
Yeah, bad judgment.
Bad judgment. Discernment. Gain the gift of discernment, right? And all right, so whenever I'm about to enter into a new relationship, right, there's always this prayer that I say just to make sure that, it's another perspective, approval from someone who knows all things, right? God. I ask him, I'm like, God, if this person is for me,
the Lord himself,
keep them in my life. If not, please remove them. And every single time I say that, A, they stay, or B, they leave, right? And it's quick too. It's quick. If you want to know if you're in a good relationship or not, pray that prayer, and I promise you'll find out within a day. Well, like, it's a super scary prayer, and people are scared to do it, right? Because I'm like, oh, I don't even, like, because even I'm hesitant about praying it. Because I understand that there's so much, like, power within those few short words. And I know that even because sometimes I'll get into something, right, that I know I probably shouldn't be in. And then I'm like, oh, I probably should say that but one part of me doesn't want to, just because, But again, I know for the better of both parties, it's necessary to know that you guys are in it for the long run or not.
Damn.
But it's just, I don't know. It goes back to where are you basing a relationship off of, right? Because a lot of people go in and they base it off of one thing and one thing only. Lust. And that is such a problem in today's world.
Yeah, or they're like modeling after celebrities or some stupid
celebrity
thing.
Relationships
or like Disney movies or something.
Like, all right, just a quick question for you, right?
Okay.
Describe to me your dream relationship.
My dream relationship. Okay, for me personally, this is just me.
All right.
She would be an artist.
Okay.
Writes books, does poetry, she paints, whatever, right? And if our souls connect, and if she's a kind and loving person, if she has this energy to her that I'm very attracted to, and she has good morals, and she has a good guideline, and she's driven in something, like I said, if she's an artist, that would be great. But at the end of the day, it comes down to energy. What type of energy she's providing in my life. And if she's a truly just a good person, right? I look for a girl that is motivated and has something going for her. And that's one of the most important things when I'm looking into a relationship, as well as beauty and looks, obviously.
Yeah, so 1 year ago, I wrote a letter to I guess it'd be to my future self, right? Almost in a sense, but I described in this letter, like, the girl of my dreams. And I want you to take note, because this was even before this podcast was a thought, right? I just want you to take note of the things that I mentioned. So I said, if I'm honest, I'll tell you the girl of my dreams. This girl, she loves me so much as I do her. She'll have a connection with God, and we can talk about our faith together and be comfortable with each other doing so. Our love will feel natural. You can't force that. She'll be my best friend, and we would do everything together. I don't know her, but I already love her. I think I just love the idea of her right now, but I know she's out there somewhere. To whoever meets those things, I love you already. We haven't even met, and I'm already telling you how much I love you. I can't wait to give you my all. It's like I'm a very show in what I do type of guy. Like, I love to love, but you're like my real love that's always on my mind, and you're going to get treated like royalty. That was just a little short excerpt.
It's very beautiful, man. Again,
no, I'm a pretty loving guy, right? Especially if I have a relationship, because maybe it's a little bit of deprivation that it comes from. But, if that adds to a relationship, then I'm not going to blame it. But it's just that sense of, you have to have good values when you go into these things. Give the partner that you're with the best treatment you can ever. Because if you're doing anything other than that, not only is it disrespectful to them, you're literally burning away a chance at what could have been, right? Because you never know where something's going to go unless you really put your best foot forward. So the next time you get into a relationship, if you're not already in one, right, really take your time with it. Because I promise you there can be so much good that comes out of it. And you never know what's happening, right? But again, just always have faith, right? See where it goes. Maybe your plan is different than what God's plan is, right? And that's what we see in a lot of days, right? Because I'll go in with the notion that, oh, it's going to be like this, and that. When God says, no, it's going to be this way, actually. And you have to be okay with that. Because in order to truly love someone, you have to love them through all aspects, right? So they can't be like one-to-one to your perfect description of love, right? Because then it's not perfect, because they cater to you. Perfect loves come from loving them unconditionally, regardless of who that person is, right? So if you can do that, then it's unstoppable.
Yeah, regardless of their flaws, you have to love their flaws as well.
Because, yeah, it goes back to, like, it's selfish too, right? Again, a lot of it, by now, right, you can tell I'm a pretty faithful man, right? And there's, but it's, again, it's selfish because why would I start neglecting to love someone because of their flaws when I'm receiving love from a source, right, who loves me regardless of what I do? And my goal in life, right, is to be as close to God as possible. Because I feel like when you do that, regardless of anything else that happens in your life, you're good. Like, you have nothing to worry about. So even if I go broke, right, even if I'm homeless on the streets, I know that I'm always going to be with God. And when you have God, you have everything. Just that idea is just, it's almost security. Like, you can sleep well at night, knowing that there's someone out there who's going to be with you forever, even after you die, right? And that just gives me so much security, knowing that if this girl leaves me, I'll have someone to go to.
Yeah. And even if you're not religious, right? But if you're trying to be the best version of yourself, I would say live as if God does exist. Live as if God is real. And if you live like that, I mean, you're still going to make mistakes, but you're going to be much better off as a person and as a partner than you would be if you did not live as if God didn't exist.
Even if you don't believe in it, right? Which I recommend you should. But again, even if you don't, there's nothing wrong with still following those actions. Because if you were to go to the scripture that I mentioned previously, all those things are something that should really be taken into account for, right? Be patient, be kind, be caring, don't envy. All of that is based off of good love. So it's kind of, it doesn't make sense to base something on anything other than that. Because it's just so many things that go into it, but the main essence of it is that there's so many mistakes that you can do if you were to go on your own, right?
Absolutely.
But now that you have this guideline for you, then you're setting yourself up for success, and you haven't even committed to the relationship yet.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the right guidelines, then whenever you get into a relationship, you're starting off on the right foot. Instead of starting off a relationship superficially or for the wrong reasons, you're starting off you're starting off with the correct guidelines that people have been following for thousands of years.
Yeah, and I kind of want to talk about, like, what would you say makes a healthy relationship?
Well, I mean, the man and the woman, they have to give each other the same amount of love that the other person gives, right? It cannot just be one-sided. And I would say that a good relationship is when two independent individuals agree to lean on one another, right? If one person is too dependent on the other person for one thing, I mean, then it's going to be lopsided. Then the other person is going to feel overwhelmed and feel like that the other person is not giving enough. So I would say for a very healthy relationship, y'all both have to know you have to know yourself first. You have to love yourself first. And the relationship has to be reciprocal. You know, if you're giving her X amount of love, then she is obligated to give you X amount of love. Because that just makes sense. It cannot be 60-40. It has to be 50-50. And y'all both have to be a team, especially if y'all go beyond just being married and y'all become a father and a mother. Then the dynamics change a little bit because now y'all are a team. So the relationship has to be reciprocal. It has to be 50-50.
Yeah, I would say maybe even 100-100. You know,
that's actually what I was just thinking.
Yeah,
I was just thinking that.
But again, a good relationship starts at the very beginning, right? Because it's so much harder to take a bad relationship and turn it into a good one versus already starting off on the right path. So again, that's why we go back to saying, address not only personal issues, but things that you wish you could change, right? Take action on those. And when you go into your next relationship, maybe approach it from a different perspective, right? Instead of thinking, oh, I'm gonna be with this girl for, X amount of time till I get bored. Maybe after I, achieve my goal. For some people, it's something physical. Other people, it's just something emotional, right? Take out that standard that you have set already and just say, I'm going to love this person unconditionally, and we'll see where that takes me.
Yeah, I asked a question on Instagram about the topic that we're talking about today, and if anybody had any input or questions on it. And a lot of the things that we're touching on have already been answered, right? All these things, all these issues that everybody has in their relationship can be prevented if you'll start off on the right foot. And our only answer to that is to follow the guidelines according to religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, yeah, I would say this applies even if you're religious or not, right? Because that's actually, I think we should do our next video on that.
Religion?
Yeah, because our generation, Gen Z, I think is like one of the most least religious generations ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all confused.
Yeah, and a lot of people have, questions about, oh, why does so-and-so happen, right? Why is this existing? And I think that'd make for a good video. But again, that's going to be our next video. Stay tuned. But back to topic. Again, that foundation found within Scripture is something that's so valuable, and people don't realize that we've already been given the blueprint for a successful relationship, right? And again, that quote, what is it? Why is it? I don't know why. Oh, like it's yeah. Why is it slipping my mind?
Who's it by?
It's not like it's a it's a verse from the Bible, but it's oh my gosh, I'm gonna look this up because it's eating me alive. Here, can you talk while I?
Yeah. Anyways, let's talk about manipulation. So I would say that manipulation is not good. It's pretty bad. It's not the best. Manipulation is bad. It's not good.
Hold on, I need to talk a bit longer. It's.
Let me go to my notes.
Okay.
Problems. Men are not masculine. Women going overboard with sexual activities. We are growing up in a place in society.
Okay, oh yeah, I'm actually an idiot. It's literally it's the quote that love never fails. Right? I don't know how that's in my mind. Right? A lot of people like to add love never fails, but if it fails, no one's in love. Alright, that second part isn't true, right? It can still be love and fail, but perfect love never fails. And in order to give perfect love, you yourself have to be perfect. And for humans, it's impossible to achieve a state of perfection. However, this shows that the model that it was based off of is perfect love, implying that it is God's love, because a perfect being can administer perfect love. So when we take it from that, right, and we apply that to our relationships, it's like, again, like what I said before, it's like we become the medium, almost the, like the vehicle For God so loved. When there's another verse that goes, we love because he loved us first. Right?
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, love is the most powerful connection you can have with someone. It's the most powerful emotion one can feel, like regardless.
Yeah. When you model love and when you model your relationships to the highest possible good that we can think of, then your relationships are bound to be healthy. And that's modeling your relationships after religion, after Jesus, after God, right? Because that's the highest possible good that we can conceive of.
The highest love.
The highest love. That's what Christianity is based on. That's the foundation of Christianity, is the love.
Love, yeah. And that's the beauty of it, right? I feel like so many relationships today, they don't even mention religion anymore, right? Because it's all about me and you, right? The person and their partner. That's all what it is, right? No one even takes into account that God still is there. So we've covered all the benefits of a relationship, right? Everything you should strive for in a relationship. Let's talk about singleness now, right? The pros and cons of a relationship and the pros and cons of not having a relationship. As someone who's been single for quite a while, right? As much as it pains to say, right? But there's good to come out of it, right? There have been so many things that I've been able to accomplish being single that I feel I wouldn't have been able to do had I been in a relationship. Number one being, I can allocate more of my time to my goals, whether that be in the gym, whether that be in my business, whether that be towards this podcast, right? You have almost it's what you do with your time is now free because you don't have to go out and take care of someone.
Yeah.
And not to say that that's a bad thing, right? But again, it's making the most out of your situation. And so for me, that involves pushing as much time as I can that would have been used for a partner towards something that I'm personally connected with, right? Which is something that I've been working for. And so I think another good thing to come out of it is that you can really find yourself and you can prepare yourself for your next relationship, right? Because had I not been in a season of singleness, none of this would have been possible, right? So all the changes that I've made to myself are only possible because I've gone through, a heartbreak. I've gone through self-journey, right? Everything I've worked for has it's come from the season, like the singleness. And so I'm able to speak on these topics. And, people could say, oh, what are you, 17, talking about love, right? But again, if you go and you really take the words that we're saying into action, I guarantee you're going to have such a much better experience than, let's say, what you've just been previously doing, assuming that it's been something, that's opposed to what we were saying. But again, back to topic, right? There's just a lot of good to come out. And it's not necessarily saying relationships bad, singles good, singles bad, relationships are good, right? Because again, there's good to come out from both, but make the most out of your opportunity. So if you're single right now, make the most out of it. Because when it comes time for your next relationship, you want to be able to give something so special, something that you've been working on for however long you were single for. And that is a gift that the more you work on it, the more value it holds.
Become the man you want to be before you get into a relationship. That is the moral. That is the essence of our message, right? You should become who you truly want to be. You should almost be at your full potential before you get into a relationship. That relationship will run much smoother if you are already close to being the man you want to be.
Yeah.
That is just facts. That is factual, right? If you get into a relationship and you're still lazy, you still play games when you should be studying or working out, then you have a lot of room to improve, right? If you're still in a relationship and you're doing all those things, then that relationship is not going to last for very long because she's going to realize that you're a bum, that you're not everything you could be. And she knows that, right? So let's say you start going to the gym Okay, let's say you're single, right? If you're single, you have endless opportunity. You can do so many things if you're single. Right? Right?
Correct.
Right. But people see singleness as what? What do they see it as?
They see it as bad.
They see it as bad. But
they feel pressured to jump into the next relationship because being single is negatively looked upon within our realm of idolization of romantics, right? People always think of being single as you're a loser, you're the bottom of the gene pool, right? Which is not true, because there are many people who are far better off than those in relationships and they're single, right? Again, it comes to be what you make out of it. So if you're single, but you're doing all these things to level yourself up, you're going to have a much greater advantage of being in a more successful relationship than someone who jumped right into the next relationship and didn't take the time to cultivate themselves to become the best version of them possible, right? To not be the best version of yourself possible is almost disrespectful
to God.
To God and your partner.
And yourself.
And yourself too, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it stems from self-respect. I am working so hard. The reason I work so hard on myself, on the things around me, is because I know if I don't, it is blatantly disrespecting the purpose I have been put on this earth for. It's disrespectful to God. It's disrespectful to my partner. It's disrespectful to myself, and it's disrespectful to my family. You should be working day in and day out, regardless of where you are, towards achieving your purpose. And if your purpose has already been achieved, you should be working to maintain it and be multiplying it, right? Bury your talents and multiply them.
Yeah.
So approach it from an angle, or approach it from the perspective that there's always work to be done, right? Never be satisfied, because there's always a point that you can improve on. Always an aspect of your life that can be refined, right? Nobody's perfect, so that means everyone has room to improve.
I would say if you're single, man or woman, boy or girl, you should be leveling yourself up, not down, by making stupid decisions, hanging around bums, hanging around people who don't care about you, going to parties every weekend. Oh, it's okay to go to parties here and there. 4 times a year, maybe. Right? If you're partying every weekend,
come on now.
You're leveling yourself down.
Come on now.
That's just my opinion. But it's facts. Well, it's not fact. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Yeah, you should be doing everything in your power to make yourself a better person. Instead of making yourself a worse person. Okay? And drinking every Friday night, Saturday night, whatever, and partying and sleeping with whoever you want, it's not going to make you a better person. In fact, it is disrespectful to God and is disrespectful to your own body, and to yourself, and to your mind, and to your soul, and to your heart. It is, the message needs to change, and that's why we're here.
Yep.
This is why society reform started, is so that we can spread our word. All right? And my word is to do everything in your power to make yourself a better human being, right? To change your course of action, to do the right thing, and to be honest to everyone around you. Being honest is hard, right? It is extremely hard to tell the truth sometimes, right? But then you become a better person in the long run if you're honest and you're truthful to yourself and you don't lie and you don't do stupid things that are going to make you regretful and make you hate yourself even more. That is my message to the masses of our culture, to the masses of our society, but most importantly to the masses of kids our age. Because kids our age are lost. Kids our age are so in love with social media. They are so in love with the image that they have online that they lose track of who they are. They lose track of what's important and what the values in their life are supposed to be. Instead, they chase the values of celebrities. They chase the values that Satan himself have put upon the world. They chase the values of What is the perfect word?
They chase the values of degeneracy.
Degeneracy. That's what our generation is. It's a degenerate generation.
The whole reason I'm assuming if you made it this far into the podcast, you have a genuine interest on the path to redemption.
Ooh.
Right? And everyone wants there to be change, but nobody wants to change themselves. This whole podcast was started almost as like a breeding ground for, I guess, the next leaders, not only leaders, the next people who are going to go into our future miles ahead of everyone else, right? If you really take into account everything, despite the fact that we're young, I guarantee you we're already somewhat ahead of the average person, right? That's not even like being cocky or anything. I would say that's a logical statement because I've talked to many individuals of all age ranges, and all of them have said that we are ahead. And not only in that, like, but in the sense that really, if you take the time now to really grasp a mature perspective on your life, know that what you're doing at this age sets yourself up for the future, good or bad. You will then begin to approach your days as if it matters the most. Because really, that's what it is. Because you don't know if you're going to live to see tomorrow, right? You don't know if you're going to even live to see the end of the day. So what makes you think that it's okay to slack off, thinking that you have the leisure of becoming successful in the future?
You don't have the time
when you don't even have the drive to become successful now. Whew.
What makes you think that in the future you're going to find the man or the woman of your dreams if you're doing degenerate acts every single weekend and you're hanging around degenerate people and you're doing stupid things that society deems honorable or cool or whatever? Right now, we're unfiltered. We don't care anymore. We don't care about what other people think of us because they don't even know what to think about themselves. Think about it.
Come on, man.
Come on. Stop playing with me, man. Look, before you even get into a relationship, make sure you know yourself. Okay, I don't know why people struggle with that. Just be self-aware, know what your boundaries are, and be able to communicate with the other person. Second of all, you should be working every single day to make yourself a better human being. Third of all, you should just be good as is. Like, you should already have this standard of yourself. You need to hold yourself to a higher standard than sleeping around with 5 guys every freaking weekend. Okay? Sometimes you are the problem.
Oof.
But then you need to accept that. And that takes responsibility because then you have to solve that problem, which is yourself, right? But there is a level of responsibility that no one is taking account of anymore. And I would say that the problem in today's day and age, in today's society, in the modern dating world, is a lack of self-respect, a lack of shame, and a lack of responsibility. Those 3 things, I would say, is the trifecta of problems that affects our society today. It doesn't just affect our society, but it dehumanizes us, and it affects our souls. Our souls are being, taken away by Satan. I would say Satan has gotten a hold of our souls and our hearts.
World's biggest op. That's what it is.
World's biggest op is Satan.
Like,
we're going viral, baby.
But really, when you think about it, right, everything that society preaches, it goes with what Satan's after. Right? He loves lust. He loves glorification of of seeing people as an object.
Yeah.
He loves this drive for these unscrupulous acts, right? Ooh. These things all derive from him. And we're going to get deeper into this in the next episode, so stay tuned for that. Yes. However, to just sum it up, right? Change your actions, change yourself, become the best version of you possible.
Man or woman.
Man or woman.
Doesn't matter.
and live your life like if tomorrow isn't guaranteed. If you do all of that and you go hard in the paint every day, there is no way you cannot become successful. You are literally attracting success with every step you take, working on yourself. There is no way you can fail. I just don't see it. You have to realize that 99% of people out there are just talkers. So little people take action. They say, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And you go with them 6 months later and you ask them about it and they're like, oh, yeah, man, I'm still dealing with this, still dealing with the logistics. Liars! They're just talkers. Listen, words will reveal who someone pretends to be.
Ooh.
Actions will reveal who someone really is.
Oh, shit.
With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this episode of Society Reformed. We hope that if you enjoyed it, you'll stay tuned for the next episode, Religion. But again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all those good things. And with that being said, Roger, do you have any final comments?
Carpe diem.
Carpe diem.
Seize the day.
Seize the day.
Goodbye, everybody.